I was out yesterday at North Table Mountain Park. Early in the morning. The sun had just started to peek up. And it was a moment of just pure awe.
As a society, we need open spaces. We need refuge from the concrete and the billboards and the noise.
It's an almost spiritual experience.
Aside from the scenery being aesthetically beautiful, for me personally, it stirs something primal.
It's the resounding story you hear over and over from some 2,500 Jeffco Open Space volunteers.
Helping people in the parks and interacting with people who enjoy them has been really what drove me to volunteer.
You have a wonderful buried treasure in our parks. Each park has its own special little niche that goes on.
They need to know there are quiet places to get away from the hustle and the bustle of the city, find the peace and tranquility of our parks, and we've protected this for them.
She tries to talk to about
it seems every one of Jeffco's Open Space volunteers started a journey of inspiration and curiosity, and somewhere along the line got hooked.
I feel like I belong, and a sense of peace, I guess, more than anything, that I have not really found anywhere else.
The vision for open space began more than 40 years ago when a group of forward-minded citizen volunteers realized that for nature and for Jeffco's history to be preserved, it had to be aggressively acquired and permanently protected.
Probably the greatest move made in Jefferson County was back in the 70s when they added a small amount of money to the sales tax that was able to start this program now and create these 20-odd parks with 50-something thousand acres of land that anyone can enjoy at no cost, by the way.
Jefferson County has set the tone, if you will, for this type of land preservation.
One of the best systems in the United States that handles the volunteerism and the open space parks.
I've lived in California and Minnesota, and they have parks, but they're not maintained. They don't have volunteers and different things like that.
And everybody who volunteers, who comes here, can work at that goal of keeping nature here the way it was.
Part of what makes open space such a treasure is that it is also a gateway to the West with a rich and deep heritage.
But I just think it's nice to know how long these areas have been around, and that Indians used to live in this particular area.
We love our past. We learn from it. We learn from the history and the heritage. It's people who have ranched, logged, farmed, mined this land. They know the land and they love the land.
One classic example, the Highwan Homestead Museum in Evergreen, staffed by volunteers.
Mary Neosho Williams and her daughter Josepha Williams came here to recreate just as we do today. And they found this property for sale, engaged with a local craftsman, Jock Spence, to turn a one-room hay barn into the fantastic building we see today.
I'm a big history nut anyway, and so I decided I would start volunteering, and got more and more interested in it and learned more about the house. And my problem when doing a tour is knowing when to cut it off.
It's a jewel in the tapestry of history of our county.
That captivating tapestry is also woven into the history of the Bairden Lodge in Pine Valley, where volunteers help out.
It's such an interesting building. The Bear family, they chose to build Bairden out of local timber, local stone. They could have imported rocks from far away, but they chose to use the environment. And Bairden is set within the environment. It's part of the landscape. and they reflect a deep love, a connection to the land from the people that have preserved those buildings.
As an adjunct professor of astronomy, William Bear even built an observatory there to gaze at the stars.
Still, I get people come up to me in the park saying, how do I get into the observatory? Can I get into the observatory?
A working telescope that is still used for educational programs today.
My two big passions are the outdoors and history. And the fact that we have combined both of those into a program right here in Jefferson County makes me proud.
Open Space continues honoring the founding principles through the hundreds of volunteers who have adopted these lands, the history, and the vision.
That's not safe at all.
No.
Volunteers keeping open space enjoyable means an array of possibilities, like volunteers working the trails.
So by volunteering, we cut the costs for the county, we allow them to build more trails, more development for the hikers and the mountain bikers.
What are you trying to catch?
Grasshoppers.
Volunteers educating and building relationships.
Oh, there is one.
The best part of it all is just the people that you get to meet on the trail.
We learn from the guests, we get to speak with them, answer questions, and that's a reward for us. And plus we're learning as we go along all the wonderful things that Colorado has to offer in the open spaces of Jefferson County.
Beautiful morning, isn't it?
Volunteers as a Park Patrol ambassador to the visitors.
You got beautiful dogs.
And that's part of our position as patroller, is to educate them and let them know what a treasure this is.
Good, thanks for having your dog leashed up.
Volunteers passing the wonder to the next generations.
Squirrels, yes, squirrels.
Teachers can bring children to the Nature Center for these programs and give them a hands-on experience that ties in with the subject that they're actually at that point teaching, because they're the future, and they're the future that will protect these wonderful open spaces that we have.
During the seasons, citizen scientists volunteering to monitor nature and wildlife patterns.
You go to Crown Hill Park and you're going to be able to see the coyotes that live there and the natural habitat that is there.
Birds in particular provide great windows into the health of a community. The nest box monitoring program involves visits to a certain set of nest boxes. We monitor and record data on what we see. That data is uploaded into the database at the Jefferson County Open Space and then also transferred to a nationwide database of a research project that's been going on for decades.
Yeah, he needed it. It's a summer cut.
Open Space volunteers helping in the Elk Meadows off-leash fenced dog park.
It's perfect. It's a great escape after work for them and for me.
So the word spreads, people start understanding, and they come up and they see the value for what they get.
But always, for volunteers, it's their presence, connecting with the visitors, transmitting a love and respect for the wonder they can enjoy.
The volunteers are the heart and soul of the program.
I like face-to-face interaction with people, and I find that it's a lot easier to tell people about how special the parks are when you are face-to-face with them.
The visitors that we come across when we're out doing our volunteer activities are really what make what we do so satisfying.
It gives me an opportunity to meet people, to continue to where I can yak with people, to do something that I just absolutely totally love, and that's be outdoors.
It's a treasured message that volunteers pass on, a message absolutely critical to our children and grandchildren.
I just became a grandmother, and I want to be able to share this with my granddaughter as she grows up.
They need to know there are quiet places to get away from the hustle and the bustle of the city, find the peace and tranquility of our parks, and we've protected this for them.
Volunteers know deeply that open space is a non-replaceable, cherished prize, too valuable to ever lose.
It's my life to be able to be out in these wonderful places, and it's just so hard to imagine a life without these wonderful spaces.
Without it, a true treasure would be lost.
If there wasn't an organization or like Open Space to just make sure that these things stand, what would happen to them even 50 years from now?
Developers would gladly overrun it, I'm sure.
This whole area would be covered by houses if Jeffco Open Space wasn't involved.
If we didn't have these parks, if we didn't have these open spaces, there would be an emptiness in our souls, in our life. It would be paved paradise.
We're leaving a legacy. This is my legacy because I'm a Jefferson County native, and protecting this is so important for my kids and grandkids, and we got to start taking care of it. And this is the first step in taking care of our legacy to our children and grandchildren.